I'll be honest, this is not what you can expect when you play Pommern. It's certainly not what I expect when I come play this ship. It's a secondary German battleship. You're not supposed to get citadels. And yet this game we do. This ship acts a little more like a hyper-accurate Montana than it does a German battleship. We still have secondaries, we still have turtleback, we still have hydro to brawl with, but I gotta say, don't buy this ship or go get this ship based off this game. Alright, that's the warning. Now into this game, we get so many broadsides, and that's because we push up the B cap here. And the enemy team hasn't really positioned themselves in a way to stop us from taking this position. Honestly, I don't really like this map, but there are opportunities to push through the middle with these two islands. This B cap is interesting. I think A cap is also quite interesting. C is just too open for my taste. But with our Hydra, we spot out the low yang torpedoes and reasonably comfortably dodge them. You're going to notice in this game, I have 5 heals and no fire prevention. I don't really recommend that, but this is my commander from the German battle cruiser line, where I need to get more damage controls, and since they're fast acting, I really do want to have more of them over fire prevention. The main line though, I do value fire prevention a little more, but since it's a premium and we're wanting to use the best commander we can, Lucian's in this case, and we want to activate our secondaries, I decided the trade-off was probably okay. We're getting into the thick of it now with the Pommern on the enemy team pushing in as well. He's been shooting HE, so I don't actually feel too bad about going flat broadside. As we'll see later, that can be a really dangerous thing to go broadside to a Pommern. But here's where I really knew this game was getting a little crazy. We hit 5 out of 6 shells on a destroyer at close range out of a Pommern. That's not normal. So we're having some incredible luck here in this ship. Of course, we are top tier, and I can't say that this would happen, or at least this push would be allowed in tier 10, or certainly not super ship level games, as we get our first kill with a close quarters expert, and a Fiji that's broadside. This is not normal for the tier 10 meta, but since you're tier 9, you can see these games every once in a while. The poor Fiji there, in a frantic rush to dodge our salvo, ate a face full of Kudasov torpedoes. Of course, we do get our secondaries off on both sides, but both these enemy battleships are leaving our range, so we're really not going to get too much work out of them. And overall, I'd say the secondaries are just kind of okay. They don't have the crazy accuracy like the Schlieffen battlecruiser line, but in return you do get better armor, and you get a few more guns. Even though the Pommern seemingly has poor Sigma and shouldn't be doing much damage, we're going to double citadel the enemy Pommern with our back turrets only. That takes us up to 4 citadels, and that's not even half the citadels we're going to get in this one. It just so happened that people wanted to go broadside to my position, and that doesn't work every game, it doesn't happen all the time, but we do put ourselves in as many positions as we can to catch some broadsides. Our team has kind of been at a stalemate with the enemy team down at C, so it's likely people are going to be angled to my team down at C. So we're catching a ton of broadsides over there. It's a target-rich environment, and we choose a Myoko, getting 2 citadels at 17 kilometers again. This ship is not supposed to work like this. It's supposed to be strong at close range and pretty weak at long range. Even at 12 kilometers, I don't think I should expect to dev strike this guy in a Pommern. I'd like to think I can expect that, but I don't think that's the way the game's been designed, at least these days. So us getting these salvos is pretty lucky, I gotta say, but a ton of fun, and that's why I wanted to show you guys this one. It's the 10-minute mark of the game, and we already have nearly 200,000 damage and a couple kills. And again, front turrets only. Hydro's useful for spotting these torpedoes out. And again, we hit 4 shells on the Friesland with our secondaries finishing them off. Friesland, of course, doesn't have torpedoes. This means that the Udachi has to be on this side, which is a little scary given we only have a minute left on our Hydro. But for now, it's going to be okay since he's already used his set of torps, and there's an enemy Florida, again at long range, that we're going to try and deal with. He's reasonably well angled for this one, but we can potentially overmatch him since Florida has notoriously bad armor. That ship is a ton of fun to play at tier 7, but let's be honest, the armor leaves something to be desired. And a Pommern is really going to have a good time in these tier 7 games. I think they happen at about the same frequency as they used to. If you guys remember in some of my previous videos from a month or so ago talking about super ships, I was concerned about them coming to random battles and essentially pulling tier 9s into super ship games all the time. That hasn't really been my experience too much, so maybe I was worried about nothing as we get another double Citadel salvo on the Florida. Yeah, it's ridiculous. 216k, 10 Citadels already. And we're working towards a Kraken. And guess what's broadside? A Dmitry Donskoy is broadside trying to angle to my team south of sea. These flanks are so good, and I love getting onto them. And when RNG works out, let's be honest, there's a lot of things that have to go right in a game to get a match like this, but they can happen. But what's also more likely to happen is salvos like that onto the Donskoy, especially out of a Pommern. I would say you can expect this kind of damage output from a more accurate battleship, maybe the Yamato Montanas of the world, the Slava certainly, but not the German battleships, as we do collect our Kraken in this game. And just for good measure, a Sovietsky Soyuz goes broadside at 9 kilometers. And given the game we're having, of course we're going to get another Citadel. Unfortunately, he is going to go down to the Freddy on our team, and we're not going to get our 6th kill. How unfortunate for us. So that's an unusually positive Pommern game where things just happen to go right. And we get 234k and 11 Citadels. I hardly ever get 11 Citadels in accurate battleships, let alone something like the Pommern. And even with 148 secondary hits, our secondaries certainly were not our primary damage dealer in this game, and honestly in most games, they're not going to be your most damage. Here we only get 35k out of them, and that's honestly decent for a ship like the Pommern. Like I said earlier, I do think that fire prevention is much more useful on the mainline German battleship style ships where you have more armor and you don't have that fast acting damage control. But Lucian's is so fun on the Schlieffen that I kind of have to leave him on there. So having this build is a bit of a detriment to a Pommern when I decide to play it, but as you can see, it still can work out decently. On to the equipment, I am running a full secondary build, so we're not even running the aiming systems mod 1. We got very lucky this game. Let me be very clear on that, if I haven't already. Very lucky, but honestly, this ship can work out pretty well these days still, given the right map, even without being this lucky. Having that brawling tanking build is really fun on maps with a lot of islands, where you can push up and have a good time. Overall, I don't really recommend you rush out and buy the Pommern. There's plenty of great ships you can grind for free in the tech trees these days that do a similar level of playstyle that this ship does. But that said, it still is a pretty good time. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.